population happens to be as well. So let's take a look at a pier light. Places like Fort Myers could have storm surge maybe 4 to 7 feet or so. That could bring your surge up over my head, 6 feet high. Notice the vehicles would be floating away, all kinds of debris, not to mention the projectiles from the wind damage that are going to be flowing here as well. It's really hard to wrap your brain around what 10 to 15 feet of storm surge might look like, but this is what surge would look like over 9 feet. That's well over 3 feet above my head. This is inundating the entire first floors of building, not to mention the fact that large and battering
this time wisely and get out.
Be unpredictable.
Next.
Feels good to move.
Feel less joint pain, swelling and tenderness, back pain and clearer skin, and help stop further joint damage with Cosentix. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentix. Before starting,
Check out these moves.
just bust a move. Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentix.
The moment I loved our Subaru Outback most was the moment they walked away from it.
Mom! Oh, thank goodness.
And that's why our family will only drive a Subaru.
Subaru. More IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than any other brand. Love. It's what makes Subaru, Subaru.
Get special low rates on a new Subaru Outback for a limited time.
Start your day with Nature Made and try new zero sugar gummies.
Domino's now has new 5-cheese mac and cheese. It's oven-baked, hot, and melty. But if you want to crank up the heat even higher, it also comes in spicy buffalo. Try new 5-cheese and spicy buffalo mac and cheese. Only at Domino's.
Up for something crispy, a little chocolatey, and a lot of peanut buttery? Whoa, do we have the snack for you. Rice Krispies Treats Chocolatey Peanut Butter.
Walmart Plus. It's Walmart plus an included Paramount Plus subscription to stream shows with lots of seasons and episodes. Plus, staying up lots of hours past your bedtime. Because you don't need sleep, you need answers. Walmart Plus. It's Walmart Plus.
From this can't miss moment to this hello new grandpa moment to that whatever this is moment. Your moments are worth protecting against RSV. If you're 75 or older, or 60 or older with certain chronic conditions, you're at higher risk of being hospitalized from RSV. And there are no prescription RSV treatments. You have options. Ask your pharmacist or doctor about Pfizer's RSV vaccine. Because moments like these matter.
When a tough cough finds you on the go, a syrup would be silly. Woo!
Hey, try no Robitussin salt juice.
Packed with the power of Robitussin in every bite. Easy to take cough relief anywhere. Chew on relief. Chew on a Robitussin.
All right, we've got some new video into the Weather Channel. This is showing you quite the bumpy ride for hurricane hunters. Kind of gives you an idea of some of the turbulence that they're having to deal with. This is Miss Piggy. It's the name of the plane. And there you can see Miss Piggy's namesake hanging there from the windshield, floating all over the place as well. Can you imagine what it has been like for these guys in a hurricane this intense, and gals, by the way? There were at least 3 flights happening simultaneously earlier this evening. Of course, they're going to continue to fly in and around this thing to help keep us up to date, but also to help improve forecasting. Bruin?
All right, well, even before Milton arrives, we've got heavy rain, and that's been an issue here across mainly South Florida. Naples right now getting hit pretty hard. Miami, we got a few raindrops on the lens, but overall the heavy rain has subsided for now. The same can't be said later tonight. We got to watch out for that risk for flooding. Flash flooding, in fact, likely in some of these spots. Not everybody going to see it, but we got an interesting little setup. And we've been talking about this all last week before any Milton ever formed, that there was going to be an active pattern here with multiple rounds of very heavy rainfall coming into Florida, one being this and the other one being Milton, which unfortunately has become this Category 5 hurricane just north of the Yucatan Peninsula right now. So there's Florida. There's this batch of tropical moisture that's working its way through. So you can see some deeper shades of green and yellow when you're looking at the water vapor. Meanwhile, look how dry it is back across the Gulf Coast and across the southeast. In fact, not even a cloud in the sky. And then your eye really kind of focuses in on Milton there across the southern Gulf of Mexico. Now, most of the rain has been in South Florida. So while we've seen a few showers and much cloudy skies today over central North Florida, it's been okay for folks trying to get out. But in South Florida, that's where it's been more notable. In fact, look at this batch of storms coming into Collier County here across southwest Florida. Very steady rain filling in across Naples. So we may see a couple of inches before all is said and done. Look at the lightning there just offshore. That's moving mainly south towards the Everglades, but we also got some storms there in the northern parts of the Keys. So we'll have to watch the progress of this because it could impact Miami, Fort Lauderdale as we get into the early morning hours of your Tuesday for the morning commute. So expect the risk for flash flooding and certainly wet roads here, Jackie.
Yeah, folks have been busy today, certainly preparing and getting ready. They loaded up on sandbags here, as you can see in Tampa, obviously a sped up version of that, hoping to keep their homes, businesses safe from the flooding. Of course, bags certainly can produce and make a wall to help divert the water, but keep in mind when you do that, only fill the sandbags up about halfway or so. You want them to be able to kind of mesh together overall. You don't want any space between them, and if you overfill them, you get little gaps in that. So a real simple but effective way to fight the flood. Hopefully most of those folks working on that today are going to come out of this one okay. But water, of course, is the big threat, whether it's from storm surge or from inland flooding from the heavy rainfall. And heavy rain is going to be one of the big concerns with Milton, too, including inland. Flood watches are in effect from Brunswick, Georgia, all the way to the southern tip of the Florida Peninsula. The rainfall heaviest expected to be very near and to the right of where the center makes landfall and continues to track. Now, having a precursor flood event, unfortunately, is not a good thing. And a lot of these areas already have a huge surplus for the year when it comes to rainfall. In fact, Tampa, I think, is like 20 or 22 inches. I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head for a surplus for 2024. And we could be talking about another 12 to 18 inches. So a good 1.5 feet of rainfall. The models are doing a really good job kind of pinpointing the areas where the worst of that will be. They both agree that that amount is reasonable here, and that would be more likely along the I-4 corridor and areas to the north, unless this thing tracks a little bit farther south. So just know that that could move a little bit further to the south with time. Either way, flooding will be a big concern, and with double-digit rainfall, this is the area where it's going to be most likely, and you don't have to be at the coast, Chris, to need to have a plan or possibly even plan to evacuate if the water gets that bad.
Certainly don't. Well, every minute of preparation is going to count the next 2 days. Meteorologist Jordan Steele walks us through the important steps in the countdown to landfall.
As many of us know, the tropics have come to life. A storm is threatening, the clock is ticking. So now's the time for you to spring into action. Let's say we're 48 hours out. A hurricane watch is imminent, maybe it's just been issued. So what does that mean? Well, it means you gotta get your car filled up with gas. Make sure you have plenty of cash. And now is also the time to check your evacuation kit. Make sure you have plenty of water for days. Grab any last-minute items like batteries, and make sure your important documents are saved electronically and in a protective, waterproof envelope. Because at this stage of the game, time moves quickly. Before you know it, we're gonna be 24 hours from landfall. And at that point, a hurricane warning is up. The storm is gaining strength, and it's getting closer. Finish protecting the windows. You'll also have to clean up all that debris in the yard like I have here. Kids. And if officials say that you need to evacuate, please do so. The outer bands of the storm, they're now coming ashore. It's time to be in your safe location. Family members, friends, they need to know where you're gonna be. Share your plans, and remember, at this point, all of your electronics need to be fully charged because you can expect power to be out for days. Now, from this point, the weather's going downhill fast. Landfall is upon us, and now's the time to shelter in place and ride out this storm.
All right, we are in the countdown state now. Within 48 hours of landfall likely here across the west coast of Florida. We're going to have crews spread out across the state of Florida, not just on the Gulf side, but also back towards Jacksonville, Daytona Beach, and of course Orlando. We'll be back with more.
You won't remember my name. This is the last time you will see me at the top. I want to carry on, but not today. This is the point I give up. But not today. I want to carry on. You will see me at the top. This is the last time you won't remember my name.
The truth about DIY is you never really do it all by yourself.
Because the setup took 2 videos and a quick demo.
You can change your color here.
And all of this started here, detoured here, and ended
down here.
And this pizza wasn't delivery. This was.
I wonder if they do have it.
We do. So whenever you start a project,
don't worry.
You're not alone.
We can do this together.
So what are you working on?
How irresistible are cheesy crackers?
Want it, need it, cheese it.
Purina cares here.
We're all creatures of habit. We've always had our bran flakes with plump, juicy raisins, and we probably all... Ooh, frosting. Kellogg's Frosted Bran. More delicious ways to bran.
Prime Big Deal Days is coming October 8th and 9th with exclusive savings just for Prime members. You'll feel like a big deal. Shop deals on electronics, fashion, and more this Prime Big Deal Days, October 8th and 9th.
I'm certain it's level 5.
Are you for imprint certain?
Certainty matters. 4imprint is your home for promo gear to wow clients and inspire your team. Check out 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
With Harry's, you get a smooth shave at a great price because you get all of this for as low as $2 per refill, half of what the other guys charge. Wake up to Harry's. Get your trial set for just $7 at harrys.com/smooth.
Let your feet take you wherever your spirit wants to go. The redesigned Hurricane helps you navigate any surface so it truly stands alone. Move forward with confidence at hurricane.com.
Framing is hard, but FrameBridge is easy. Custom frames, premium materials, transparent pricing. Get started at framebridge.com or visit a store today.
This hurricane season, America's most trusted news network is putting your safety first with minute-by-minute coverage.
This is a dangerous hurricane.
Receive instant information information from our team of meteorologists and landfall cams that bring you every angle on our TV app. This hurricane season, protecting America, only on the Weather Channel.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of Hurricane Milton. We've been watching traffic cams now in and around the Tampa area all evening, and just the crush of traffic here is not letting up. People have been heeding the warning. They're getting out before Hurricane Milton arrives, and this is just a really good example of why we ask you to evacuate as soon as possible. It's such a hard decision, I think, for a lot of people to be able to make, but once you make it, just, get out as soon as you can. You don't want to get stuck on the road, so better to be stuck today than get stuck a little bit closer to when that hurricane is going to be approaching. Now, there are ways to get help. In fact, we're hearing now that tomorrow there are going to be some free shuttles that are going to be operating in Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough counties to assist with evacuations to shelters. So you can call 800-729-3413 to get assistance. That is free. It doesn't matter, why you need help. It's just that you need help, and they're there to help you and get you out. You can also get free Uber rides, by the way, too, in a lot of these areas. So thanks for being with us tonight. We want to help you stay safe during the storm, and one of the best ways you can do that is to not be there. So hopefully you're evacuating and doing that if you're told to do so. Just listen to some good tunes, have some patience. Hopefully you're traveling with a buddy. Bring a little extra gas with you if you have the possibility and ability to do that, and bring some food and bring some water, because it's going to take a lot longer than it normally would. I'm meteorologist Jackie Jarris. Meteorologist Chris Bruin is here tonight as well. The hurricane hunters have been flying in and around the hurricane and gathering some really important data. Today they discovered the lower pressure, which is now making it the most intense, fifth most intense hurricane on record in the Atlantic basin. So that's one of the things that they find out for us. They also sample the winds and now have wind speeds that have been sampled at around 180 miles per hour. This is also one of the strongest hurricanes when it comes to wind speed. I think we're in sixth place for that one. 190 is the fastest wind speed on record there, which was Hurricane Allen back in 1980. So here's some of the data coming in from the Air Force hurricane hunters. They're doing the low-level reconnaissance mission, so they're generally below 10,000 feet, but they get all the way down to about 1,500 feet sometimes. They release drop-zons, and that records data all the way down, and that information can go into our computer models to help give us a better idea of where this may be going. So there's the latest statistics. It looks like a buzzsaw. Notice that very well-defined eye is not as easily seen now, and so it's getting obscured by some cloud cover. It was a pinhole eye, and we think we're undergoing an eye wall replacement cycle, which will cause some fluctuations in intensity. So stay the course, keep doing your plans, get ready to do that. Landfall likely Wednesday night into Thursday morning. And Bruin, while our wind speeds may go down a little bit with time, folks need to be preparing for worst case scenario, quite honestly, because it may end up being that, especially with storm surge in areas like Tampa Bay. We may get some wobbles in there, and the exact track is still not definite, but we need to be preparing for the worst and hoping for the best this time around, and just get out, help your neighbors, open your doors to others if your place is safe.
sure. You know, Cat 5s can only maintain themselves so long before they start to weaken. And when we look at that satellite, you can see that eye got so small. It almost looks like it disappeared, but it's about to grow in size.
That's
exactly. So it's really small to look at from above. And you can see we've rapidly intensified from early this morning to now, and then we've kind of plateaued. This is almost as high as a hurricane can get. I mean, we've seen a few hurricanes higher, but very, very few, right? So this is a dangerous storm and one to be taken very seriously. Even if the winds come down a bit, all right, we're still expecting over 100 to 110 plus miles per hour winds. That's EF1, almost EF2 type damage here as far as winds are concerned across the Tampa Bay metro area down through Sarasota in that pink area. But we may see gusts up near 100 miles per hour well inland all the way to the other side of the state, like Daytona Beach and around Orlando and also around Jacksonville. Southwest Florida around that 40 to 70 mile per hour range in many cases, north of Naples, even a little bit higher there around Fort Myers. So that's what we're looking at. The wind field overall right now is relatively small, but as it moves into the eastern Gulf of Mexico and as the eye and Milton changes shape and form, the winds may come down a bit, Reynolds, but we do expect the wind field to grow in size, which will bring a lot of big impacts even to the east coast of Florida where you are tonight.
My goodness, you're absolutely right, Chris. And I mean, what we're going to be seeing is the beautiful conditions go from beautiful to problematic to quite bad. Coming up, you're going to hear from Carl Parker and Chris Warner. They're going to take you all the way through the 2 a.m. hour. But right now, we are well into darkness, but we're shedding light on the situation, what we can expect from the system. If you've been looking at some of the latest imagery, again, as Jackie mentioned, that pinhole eye, hard to discern for the time being, but it seems like it's going through a replacement cycle, and we do expect there to be an ebb and a flow and possibly an outstretching of these powerful arms of the system. And right now, according to that forecast, it is bound for the west coast of Florida. There will be changes to the forecast, that is for certain, and to keep up to speed with the very latest of it, they're at the right place. If you've been watching the Weather Channel for a very long time, we're glad you're with us. If this is something new to you, hey, welcome home. We're going to commercial break. We will see you in a few moments. Beautiful evening.
My moderate to severe plaque psoriasis held me back. Now with Skyriz, I'm all in with clear skin.
Things are getting clearer. Yeah, I feel free. To burn my skin, yeah, that's for me. Nothing is everything. Whoa.
With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And most people were clearer even at 5 years. Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to.
Nothing and me go hand in hand. Nothing on my skin, that's my new plan. Nothing is everything.
Now's the time. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Our energy turns driving into a transformative experience. It takes handling and makes it super handling. Born on the racetrack and raised in the 3rd row. It pushes technology to be brighter. And that's the energy of innovation. Visit your local Acura dealer for attractive offers on a new vehicle.
I have a surprise for you.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah. Feast your eyes on this.
Oh, that's sexy. Feels so new.
I want to feel this feeling again and again.
Can I hold it?
How bad do you want to hold it?
I'm not gonna beg, but pretty please.
Don't. Go ahead. Press a button.
Oh, it's glowing.
Apple Intelligence. We should do this more often.
Agreed.
Rekindle the feeling of love with the new iPhone 16 Pro on us. And feel it again and again with the latest iPhone every year with AT&T Next Up Anytime.
Dupixent can help people with asthma breathe better in as little as 2 weeks. So this is better, even this. Dupixent is an add-on treatment for specific types of moderate to severe asthma that's not for sudden breathing problems. Dupixent can cause allergic reactions that can be severe. Tell your doctor right away if you have rash, chest pain, worsening shortness of breath, tingling, or numbness in your limbs. Tell your doctor about new or worsening joint aches and pain or a parasitic infection. Don't change or stop asthma medicines, including steroids, without talking to your doctor. Ask your specialist about Dupixent.
Hi.
Have you ever tried this before?
I don't believe I have.
Oh. Crispy.
Creamy.
Hazelnutty.
Free Kinder Bueno? Now that's bueno.
Kinder Bueno.
Try Kinder Bueno free.
We're gonna need another bar. Honey, do you want me to schedule Calvin's COVID-19 and flu shots?
Way ahead of you.
It's impossible.
It's magic.
Schedule free flu and COVID-19 vaccines for the whole family online today. Walgreens.
Category 5 Hurricane Milton growing stronger tonight. Now, one of the most intense storms we've seen in the Gulf. The central pressure for this storm has fallen to a near record low. Milton poses an extremely serious threat to Florida. All day, people have been getting ready and getting out. Lines for gas going on for miles. Others filling up sandbags. Interstates 75 and I-4 have been jammed. Most of Florida under a state of emergency tonight. This is our special coverage tracking Milton. I'm meteorologist Chris Warren alongside storm specialist Carl Parker. And we're live with you tonight until 2 a.m. Eastern or 1 a.m. Central. And Carl, Milton, an extremely impressive, extremely dangerous storm we're tracking tonight.
Yeah, you know, Chris, we often talk about the fact that you shouldn't use your own experience as a frame of reference when it comes to decision making. And the fact is, in this case, you can't use your own experience because no one's had experience with this. We have not seen a major hurricane hitting the west coast of Florida and the Tampa area for over 100 years. And so this is going to be an entirely different animal relative to what we have seen in recent years. Here's the latest on the storm. It is a Category 5 storm. Notice the pressure, 897. That makes it the 5th most intense hurricane in Atlantic Basin history by pressure. 5th most intense on record in the Atlantic Basin. Now moving to the east at 10 miles per hour. Here's the forecast track and intensities from the Hurricane Center. You see the center line takes it here into western Florida and towards the Tampa area. Maybe a slight change in intensity as it's approaching, but it's really important to not pay attention to that because even as the storm is perhaps coming down somewhat in intensity, the winds are going to be expanding, it's going to be getting larger, and it's going to pose even more of a surge threat. And remember what happened with Katrina. Katrina was a 5 and then became a 3, and as a 3, it still caused the most damage that we've ever seen from a tropical cyclone. And this could rival that if it comes into Tampa, right over Tampa, or just to the north. Right now, the forecast for the storm to be Category 3 to 4 as it's approaching the coast. There's a closer look at satellite imagery. This thing is just a dynamo here. We've actually been looking at a very small eye, an area of what we call radius of maximum winds, probably only a few miles wide, and that eye not quite as well defined right now, so it's probably going to go through what's called an eye wall replacement cycle, and there could be several of those. And part of what happens when that occurs is that the wind field gets larger. So you see that in the modeling here. We see a much larger area of strong winds coming into this exceptionally surge vulnerable section of coastline along the west coast of Florida. You go out 300 miles west of Tampa, and you're talking about, you know, a depth of maybe only 300 feet. Down to the surface, so down to the seafloor, I should say. So it's a lot easier to build up the water in the eastern part of the Gulf than it is in many other parts of the world. So this is the most important part of this forecast. Right now, looking at the potential for 10 to 15 feet of storm surge in and around the Tampa area. Now, think about what happened with Helene. We had a surge of generally 5 to 8 feet in the Tampa area. In St. Pete, for example, 6.3 feet. 30,000 structures were damaged as a result of that. Same story farther southward as well into Anna Maria Island, Longboat Key. If you're talking about doubling that amount of surge, you're talking about a life-threatening, incredibly damaging level of surge here. And again, just not something that anybody can remember in this area. So it's really, really important for you to not use your own experience as a frame of reference because it's no good in this case. Farther southward, serious surge here as well, 6 to 10 feet into Fort Myers Beach and also Sanibel Island, the very areas that were hit so hard by Ian in 2022. Now, if the storm comes in near or just to the north of Tampa Bay, that would maximize the surge. There have been reports on this scenario for years and years This could be, if it happened like that, one of the worst disasters, if not the worst disaster in U.S. history. If it comes in a little to the south, that will help. There will still be surge, but that will help. But that'll make it worse for areas that are farther south. So let's take a look at the current forecast track. This is the official forecast line right here. And overlaid on that are the ensemble members of the GFS. The GFS there in the gray color and the European model ensemble members in the orange color. And there has been a little bit of a shift to the south today. So, it's really important for you to follow this day by day and see how this is happening, because if it is right over Tampa or a little to the north of Tampa, that's the worst case scenario for Tampa. That's where we're talking about getting that 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. If it comes in a little to the south, well, that's going to bring down those storm surge values in the Tampa area, but it's going to bring areas that are farther south way up, including perhaps Sarasota and into Siesta Key and Anna Maria, areas that were hit so hard by Helene, farther southward into Venice and Rotonda, and then down, yes, towards Fort Myers and also towards Sanibel. The surge values would come up in those areas if it does end up tracking a little farther to the south. Here, by the way, a mixture of some of the global models and some of the hurricane models. And again, the official forecast taking the storm right over Tampa at this point. We also have to talk about wind, because the storm is going to be moving along pretty quickly, probably about 15 miles per hour. It's going to bring that wind well inland all the way into the I-4 corridor, into Orlando, and very far to the north and south. So here you're looking at the potential for high-end wind here, over 110 miles per hour on the west coast of Florida, 74 to 110 through much of the middle of the state, including Orlando. So that could mean widespread tree and power line and structural damage into Orlando and into Daytona and into the Space Coast, again, depending on exactly where that core goes. So this is, even though it's, we're talking about a terrible, absolutely devastating storm surge threat on the West Coast, we're going to see really serious impacts that extend well inland as well, and right across the central part of Florida. Also, rainfall, very important part of this as well. Where that core goes, on the north side of the core, because drier air is going to be filling in underneath. The north side of the core is where we're going to see very heavy rain. Right now, it appears that that is going to be from Tampa and on northward and into areas northwest of Orlando, so getting towards Leesburg and Fruitland Park, we could be talking about 8 to 12 inches of rain, and that ending up on the northeast coast and towards St. Augustine as well. So, Chris, as I've said a number of times, you just cannot use, what you've been through in the past to decide what you're going to do in this case, because nobody's ever seen anything like this.
Nobody alive has seen anything like this.
Nobody alive has seen anything like this. Yes.
Hey, Carl, I want to go back to something that you mentioned here. So it is a Category 5 hurricane right now, still a major hurricane at landfall. That's the forecast. Now, if it were a 3 now and 3 at landfall, that's one thing. But it's a 5 now, and it could be a 3 at landfall. That makes a difference. That matters, doesn't it? The fact that it is so strong right now. So we don't focus on what it's going to be when it makes landfall. What it is right now does make a difference for what's ultimately going to happen.
That's already starting to set the stage for this incredibly devastating surge event, because you've got so much intensity. Even though it is a smaller storm, it's incredibly intense. So it's already starting to generate very large waves and building up the water. But then as all of that nears the coast and the storm is getting larger and it's getting into this very shallow continental shelf, we've also in the past been talking about storms that would affect, including Helene, that would affect the west coast of Florida, but coming from the south. This one's coming right into the coast, directly into the coast. So that too is also going to pile up the water even more, because it's going to be developing. That surge will be developing much farther offshore and coming right into the coastline. The potential for devastation here is absolutely enormous.
All right, so we know that. That is one of the certainties, right? It's just a matter of exactly who and where it's going to impact. It's really the big unknown right now.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's that's just one of those things that we'll have to continue to watch the trends and see if the models really settle in. There's always going to be some wiggle. I mean, we've seen that with every single storm, and we'll just have to follow it.
And it is absolutely life-threatening, and that's why, Carl, we're seeing people are evacuating because you cannot. It's not something you can survive staying in the evacuation zones here. And that's it. Live look right now here in the Tampa area tonight. As you see, highways are packed. People heading north getting out of the way of Hurricane Milton. This is Interstate 75 near 275 in the greater Tampa area, and temperatures right now in the 70s. Steady flow of packed traffic here heading out of town. Also can take you to another spot, the villages along Interstate 75, Wildwood, Florida, also with at times bumper-to-bumper traffic here. Again, this is something that you cannot stick around for. The kind of water that is possible, the potential for this absolutely life-threatening. And Ocala, similar story, Interstate 75 right now. And at this hour, 10 after 10 here on the East Coast time, a lot of people heading out of town. Of course, that is what you need to do. You get away from the potential of some life-threatening and extreme storm surge. Huge inundation a possibility. And our storm tracker, Charles Peak, has made his way into Florida tonight. He's been on the roads, out and about. He's joining us now on the phone. Charles, what are you seeing and hearing from people ahead of this very serious storm threat?
You know, Chris, it has been encouraging that, you know, I'm hearing people taking it very seriously. As I was coming down this evening, you know, all the way from basically Ocala, the traffic got a little heavier before there, but definitely by Ocala, it was bumper to bumper all the way into Tampa. And I know that's frustrating for people, and you know, it's just slow going, but, you know, to be able to heed the warning with this surge and to be able to get out of the way, you know, it's just encouraging to see so many people in town. There's still some people around. It's definitely not what it would normally be, but, you know, they still got a little more town, you know, a little more time to be able to evacuate, you know, tomorrow and get everything finalized. But you definitely don't want to be waiting too late because, you know, gasoline places are going to start running out. I didn't run into any today that was out of gasoline, but multiple ones had, you know, lines to get the gas. And as that continues, then that's going to be an issue to be concerned about as well.
And Charles, we're looking currently at a traffic map and still some very busy roads. So what time of day did you really start to see the traffic and all of this, or the video we're looking at right here?
That was about 5 p.m. as I was coming down. I got into Tampa about 6, and so along that roadway there, you know, I did stop at one of the mass retailers, and for an example, they were already out of water, out of quite a few things, just people getting supplies there in Ocala. And so, you know, they may still get another truck before that, but, you know, you definitely just don't want to wait too long to get everything that you need.
Hey, Charles, you've been the first on the scene sometimes after a unfortunate weather disaster, whether it's tornadoes, hurricanes, and we can just stick to tropical systems right now. You've talked to a lot of people after the fact. From your experience, what do they regret? What are the biggest mistakes that people make? For maybe the people that just need a little bit more encouragement to take action tonight, what's your message to them?
You know, one of the questions I will ask a lot of times afterwards is I will say, what would you do differently now that you've lived through this? And I already know the answer I'm going to get, Chris. They're going to tell me that I would pay more attention to the warnings. Everybody, that's not fair. Not everybody. So many people will think it's not going to happen to me. I lived through this storm. I've been through this. And every one of them is different. As you've already been talking, you know, nobody's alive that's been through something like what we're about to go through here. So this is going to be different. And I like to use the analogy of a police officer wearing a bulletproof vest. You know, most police officers have never been shot and probably won't be, but they wear that vest just in case because it might save their life. And in these situations, it's better to be safe than sorry. Go ahead and take the evacuation, take the precautions you need, because so many of the deaths that we see in these situations could have been prevented if the people just heeded the warnings.
All right, Storm Tracker Charles Peak, we certainly appreciate your time right now. We'll be checking back in with you for another update here. Want to go back to Storm Specialist Carl Parker. With that, I think some very needed advice and perspective from Charles Peak, because as you've been saying, we don't have anything to compare this to for this area here. You made that point, hit that home initially, but also the stakes are really high.
Yeah, absolutely huge. I mean, you know, as I mentioned before, there have been a number of studies that were done on this scenario. This has the potential to be the worst weather disaster that we've ever seen in U.S. history. So, you know, Katrina caused about $190 billion worth of damage. A Category 4 hurricane coming in just north of Tampa Bay could cause $230 billion worth of damage. We just haven't seen anything like that. There's been so much, you know, buildup of population in these areas, and we just haven't had a storm like that.
All right, so stay with us here on the Weather Channel. Our continuing coverage rolls on after this.
If you have advanced prostate cancer, you know all about perseverance. You believed in your team, even when it hurt. You met the challenge piece by piece. You didn't quit then. Don't start now. If you've had hormonal and chemotherapy, ask your doctor about Pluvicto, a different type of treatment for PSMA-positive metastatic prostate cancer that targets PSMA-positive cancer cells so you can be you for longer. And that's no small victory. Pluvicto involves contact with radioactivity, which may increase the risk for cancer and cause fetal harm. Drink plenty of fluids, urinate often, use contraception, and talk to your doctor about ways to reduce the risk of exposing others to radiation during and after treatment. Pluvicto can cause low levels of blood cell counts, kidney problems, and infertility. Tell your doctor if you have weakness, pale skin, shortness of breath, bleeding or bruising more easily, an infection, or changes in urination. Side effects include tiredness, dry mouth, nausea, appetite loss, and constipation. Here's to never giving up. Ask your doctor about Pluvicto for more everyday victories.
Why did we choose Safelight? We're always working on a project. While loading up our SUV, one extra push and crack. So we scheduled at Safelight.com. We were able to track our technician and knew exactly when he'd arrive. We could keep working. Safelight came to us.
Hi, I'm Kendrick.
With the replacement we could trust. That service the way we want it.
Schedule free mobile service now at Safelight.com.
Safelight Repair, Safelight Replace.
Sinner is going to be out of the British Grand Prix.
You won't remember my name. This is the last time you will see me at the top. I want to carry on, but not today. This is the point I give up. But not today. I want to carry on. You will see me at the top. This is the last time you won't remember my name.
I was stuck. Unresolved depression symptoms were in my way. I needed more from my antidepressant. Vraylar helped give it a lift.
Adding Vraylar to an antidepressant is clinically proven to help relieve overall depression symptoms better than an antidepressant alone. And in Vraylar clinical studies, most saw no substantial impact on weight. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke, report unusual changes in behavior or suicidal thoughts. Antidepressants can increase these in children and young adults, report fever, stiff muscles, or confusion, as these may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death, weight gain, and high cholesterol may occur. Movement dysfunction and restlessness are common side effects. Stomach and sleep issues, dizziness, increased appetite, and fatigue are also common. Side effects may not appear for several weeks.
I didn't have to change my treatment. I just gave it a lift.
Ask about Vraylar and learn how AbbVie can help you save.
Watch the Weather Channel for ongoing coverage of Milton. Get trusted updates only on the Weather Channel and the Weather Channel TV app.
Look, we've all been there. Your AC decides to quit, turning your home into an unbearable sweatbox, and now you have to deal with it. Hi, I'm Joe. And this is why I invented iFlow, the world's first automatic AC drain line cleaning system to keep your AC going and the cool air flowing. Look, that's a drain pan overflow that damages ceilings and walls, and you're left to pay for it all. Here's why. A thick, slimy, sticky bacteria called Zuglia lives inside your drain pan and drain line, clogging it up and causing your AC to shut down. But don't worry. That's why I invented iFlow. iFlow is a smart, automated device that dispenses our proven bioenzymatic cleaning fluid that actively breaks down the Zuglia and flushes it out of the drain line, helping to prevent those costly clogs. And the best part is, installing iFlow is a breeze. Just stick it on the air handler, connect the iFlow, insert the cleaner cartridge, and you're good to go. And you don't have to be a pro to do it, because there's an iFlow app to help you through it.
For special money-saving deals, visit buyiflow.com.
This hurricane season,
Good heavens, absolute punishment.
every second counts.
You don't want to be on an interstate with heavy tropical downpours.
America's most trusted news network is putting your safety first with minute-by-minute coverage, keeping you ahead of the storm.
This is a dangerous hurricane.
Receive instant information from our team of meteorologists and landfall cams that bring you every angle on our TV app. This hurricane season, protecting America, only on the Weather Channel.
Tracking Milton Weather Channel, meteorologist Chris Ward along with storm specialist Carl Parker. I want to bring you up to the very latest here with this Category 5 hurricane, 180-mile-per-hour Category 5 hurricane. For it to become a Category 5, it's 157 miles an hour, so we are up there. It is up there. This is a very, very potent, strong storm and still intensifying, expected to be 185-mile-per-hour Category 5 hurricane by tomorrow morning, with it does look like direct impacts, landfall happening late Wednesday or overnight into early Thursday morning. And with that, expecting hurricane conditions over a huge portion of Florida, several counties, almost going all the way to the East Coast. And certainly hurricane force winds are a possibility all the way to the East Coast. And then the surge, the life-threatening storm surge warnings here from just about the southern tip here of the peninsula all the way up to Cedar Key. So essentially the Keys to Cedar Key, the potential for some impacts that could be devastating for so many. Catastrophic storm surge a possibility, 10 to even 15 feet. Another look at the timing for this, a major hurricane expected at landfall, and it could be right over Tampa. That is one of the possibilities. The exact location of where the center of this comes on shore still remains to be seen, but the cone and the wind field here is showing you where the center would go, but the impact so far out of that tropical storm force winds covering almost the entire peninsula with hurricane force winds. Also very large, as the storm is expected to get larger before making landfall. And it's been more than 100 years since the Tampa Bay area was directly impacted by a major hurricane. For a coastal city of 3 million people, a direct hit could be especially devastating. Weather Channel meteorologist Alex Wilson and hurricane expert Dr. Rick Knapp explain why the area is so vulnerable.
Tampa, Florida is very vulnerable to hurricanes. Many counties in the region are surrounded by water on up to 3 sides. The Gulf is relatively shallow. During a storm, the surge is pushed higher and higher. Once the water moves into Tampa Bay, it gets stuck. It has nowhere to go but up and over the land.
The Gulf of Mexico has always been warm enough to power tropical storms and hurricanes, but in recent years it has been getting even warmer than average, powering even bigger storms. It is staggering to think that it's been more than a century since the last time a major hurricane directly impacted the Tampa Bay area. Ivan and Charlie provided some scares. Ada in 2020 had some impacts, but we have not had a direct major hurricane like the October 1921 storm with all of the dramatically increased population and infrastructure in harm's way. The winds and the storm surge that would affect the Tampa Bay area if you repeat a 1921 storm would be devastating.
If that happened again, let alone a Category 3 or 4, the water would be over a person's head and the damage would be staggering. Timing an evacuation is very critical. If people do not respond quickly, roads become backed up and leaving becomes difficult. Most of the 3 million residents have never seen a hurricane in this area and may not understand the threat. Officials urge for residents to take threats seriously and move quickly when they say you need to go.
A direct strike from a major hurricane would be so much more devastating than any of these recent storms have been, and really needs to motivate us to get ready for the next big one to come your way.
In this case, we do know a lot of people have been motivated. Evacuations are ongoing right now, with a lot of interstates packed with vehicles, as they have been now for hours. I want to go back now to storm specialist Carl Parker, and the threat to Tampa and surrounding areas, too, is just so great, Carl.
There's been so much development along the west coast of Florida for many years. I mean, you go back to that 1921 storm, and there were 160,000 people living in Tampa. Now, 3.5 million in the metro, and about 50% of that 3.5 million is sitting at an elevation of 10 feet or less. So right now we're looking at a surge potential of 10 to 15 feet, which would mean that half of, if not more, of the population of the metro could be inundated if the storm were to come in just to the north. There's a look at the population in 1940. You see how it grew here in 1970. You know, there's been sort of unabated development in these coastal areas, aided in part by a lack of pricing in the true cost, the true risk of living in a place like this. And, that's also driven by, the time horizon bias, because it's been so long that, we haven't seen anything like that for 100 years. So people think, well, it's probably not going to happen. And in fact, it is pretty rare because, generally storms don't come from the west. They usually come from the east in the tropics.
And this is the chances are low, but the stakes are high. And unfortunately now, a couple days out, the chances aren't as low as they seemed just even a week ago.
No, and the exact track of the storm is going to be really, really important in terms of who gets the worst surge. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some of those scenarios coming up here in just a few minutes. Stay with us.
I have active psoriatic arthritis, but with Skyrizi to treat my skin and joints, count me in. Along with clearer skin, Skyrizi helps me move with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. And it's just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to.
There's nothing like clearer skin and better movement, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi today. Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
I didn't have to spend my life trying to find my calling. Mine found me at an early age.
It was just a matter of how good I could get and how far I would go.
At Ram, our calling is to build trucks. So when you find your calling, nothing can stop you from answering it.
Right now during Ram Power Days, get $4,000 cash allowance on the purchase of most 2025 Ram 1500 trucks. Don't miss Ram Power Days. Hurry in today.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check the weather first before sailing.
It's gonna get nasty later.
Yep.
Hey, perfect day for sailing, huh? Have fun on land.
I'll go tell the Coast Guard. Yep.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate.
you never want to lose your edge. And the Lexus RX completely understands that.
An alternative to pills, Voltaren is a clinically proven arthritis pain relief gel which penetrates deep to target the source of pain with non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medicine directly at the source. Voltaren, the joy of movement.
Hurry to Kohl's for 3 days of deals. Take 25% off store-wide. Then find deals on fun toys, floor care, and more. Plus, Kohl's Rewards members earn 3 times the rewards.
Olive Garden's never-ending pasta bowl is back. Now with our new garlic herb sauce, which means the never-ending pasta you crave isn't just back, it's better than ever. Never-ending pasta bowl, starting at $13.99 for a limited time.
At the Home Depot, we have top brand appliances with cutting-edge features. Right now, save up to $1,600 in financing on select appliances, like the GE Profile ultra-fast combo washer-dryer that makes it easy to do it all. Shop in-store and online with fall savings at the Home Depot.
What? It's Superhero Day at school.
Lego with Ego.
Can't wait.
I have a surprise for you.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah. Feast your eyes on this.
Feels so new.
I want to feel this feeling again and again.
Can I hold it?
How bad do you want to hold it?
I'm not gonna beg, but pretty please.
Or they don't. Go ahead, press a button.
Oh, it's glowing.
Apple Intelligence. We should do this more often.
Agreed.
Rekindle the feeling of love with the new iPhone 16 Pro on us. And feel it again and again with the latest iPhone every year with AT&T Next Up Anytime.
Mass evacuations underway tonight. You can see here a lot of red, bumper-to-bumper traffic on Interstate 75. This in the greater Tampa area, just a couple days now away from some of the worst of the weather from Milton. Category 5 right now. Hurricane Milton out over the Gulf of Mexico. Ocala, similar story here. A lot of vehicles here at 10:30 at night here in Florida. A lot of vehicles going away from the coast and heading north. That is heading east or heading north, getting away from where the possible inundation of water is. And another scene here. This is Interstate 4 near Lakeland, Florida. And it has been the traffic going away from Tampa. So heading inland here is the case in Lakeland, Florida right now. Very slow moving traffic. So with that right now, I'm meteorologist Chris Warren along with storm specialist Carl Parker tracking Milton tonight. And Carl, so many things, so many signs telling us, showing us that this storm means business and it's not looking good.
Yeah, a very scary storm, Chris. And maybe we could go back to that shot of the evacuation there because, you know, evacuations in and of themselves pose very serious hazards, including when people get stuck like that, Chris. You might remember from Rita in Texas many, many years ago, a lot of people got completely stuck and they ran out of gas. And then once those cars ran out of gas, then nobody could get any farther.
Then other cars start running out of gas.
Exactly, exactly. So, you know, I wonder if we're going to be looking at some contraflow at some point here, you know, if it gets really, really bad there. But certainly that is a worry in and of itself. But you can understand why people are looking to get out of town because we are talking about what is likely to be an absolutely devastating storm for a large section of the Florida West Coast, as well as points farther inland. Right now, a Category 5 storm with winds of 180 miles per hour. I want you to pay attention to that stat right there. Pressure 897 millibars. That makes it the 5th most intense Atlantic hurricane on record. 5th most intense, and that just happened this afternoon. Moving east at 10 miles per hour right now, and it's expected to remain a very dangerous storm right up until landfall. It's going to be moving in most likely late Wednesday and early Thursday. Even if it comes down in terms of wind speed, we're still going to be talking about a massive surge here. So don't think of that in terms of you know, how you make your plans, how you decide what to do, because this is going to be a devastating storm, regardless of the intensity as it's coming in. You look at the satellite picture right now, seeing a little bit of degradation in that eye. It's actually a very tiny little core. So the average, what we call radius of maximum winds right around the eye wall of a storm is going to be closer to 30 miles. In this case, it's 3. So it's about a tenth of the size of the average hurricane at the core there. But we do expect that after some eye wall replacement cycles and some interactions with cooler air to the north, that the area of strong winds is going to expand dramatically, such that it's going to be as large as the state as the storm is coming in. And it's also going to be moving in over an area of very shallow water. So this is looking at the sea floor in the Gulf of Mexico, what we call the bathymetry. And if you go out 90 miles from the west coast of Florida, you actually have a depth of only about 300 feet. That's really important because that allows the water to pile up a lot more easily. And this is the most surge vulnerable section of coastline in the country. And in fact, one of the most surge vulnerable in the entire world. And so this forecast is an absolutely devastating forecast here for the west coast of Florida. Talking about 10 to 15 feet of storm surge in and around Tampa Bay, surrounding areas farther southward, down towards Anna Maria, and also Longboat Key, and then down towards Siesta as well, and farther south, getting towards Venice. That is a huge amount of surge. The only thing that you could hope for in the Tampa area is that the center storm would be just a little farther to the south, which is a possibility, but it would still be devastating for points farther south, Chris. So, you know, this is just one of those situations where you don't want to take any chances. You don't want to be near the coast. If officials are saying you've got to evacuate, you have to listen to them in this case.
Because absolutely horrific consequences with that 10 to 15 foot surge. Carl, so still a couple of days. You've got tonight, one sleep tonight, one sleep tomorrow, then it's the day off.
Yes.
Right? Which could go Wednesday night into Thursday. So not a lot of time, right? No. But there's going to be a lot of different model runs. There's still a lot that can evolve with this. So coming up here, I want to pick your brain a little bit about what are some of the possible best case scenarios.
Sure.
Is there one? Worst case scenarios? What can we hope? What can we pray for with this storm? So we'll get into that coming up in just a little bit.
Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. McCaffrey with a tough call.
You can't go wrong.
This is the big call, Christian. Big call, biggest call of your life. Wood or tile finish. Which one you gonna do? This could make or break the whole kitchen. Call a timeout, Christian.
London Sky.
You sure?
He's sure.
Get the man some London Sky.
And a decisive win with the Lowe's app. In-store, online, our Lowe's team has you covered.
When you need a tool that does it all, you need Tostitos restaurant style. Optimized for versatility, Tostitos can tackle every snack, big or small. Because if you're gonna do something, do it right. Tostitos restaurant style, made for snacking.
The crispiness, the chewiness, the straight up deliciousness. It's not just good, it's oh my goodness. Wow, it's exciting.
We've never spoken, but you've told us many things. That you love stargazing, hate parallel parking, and occasionally your right foot gets a little heavy. The Lexus ES didn't begin in the studio, it began with you.
Honey, do you want me to schedule Calvin's COVID-19 and flu shots?
Way ahead of you.
It's impossible.
It's magic.
Schedule free flu and COVID-19 vaccines for the whole family online today. Walgreens.
Hi, folks. Joe Namath here. And if you're having a hard time hearing, call MD Hearing because they changed my life and they can change yours too. I was wearing expensive hearing aids for years until a good friend of mine told me about MD Hearing. I bought a pair of the hearing aids with no doctor visit, no prescription, and no hassle. I got fitted right over the phone, and I've never had a better pair of hearing aids. I'm even wearing them right now.
Call now and get 2 rechargeable Neo hearing aids for just $297 with a free portable charging case and free shipping. The rechargeable Neo is nearly invisible with its tiny in-the-ear canal design, and you can get 2 rechargeable Neo hearing aids with a 45-day risk-free trial, free shipping, and free lifetime U.S.-based support for only $297.
Call my friends at MD Hearing and get the over-the-counter hearing aids that I use for you.
Call 800-374-6651.
Who can solve this equation? Ooh!
Me.
Anyone else? Fine. Jake from State Farm. Again.
Right. It's the personal price plan theorem. If you bundle your home and auto, that can equal an affordable price just for you. Bundling. Just another way to save with the personal price plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Soft drinks are just $1 at Wendy's. Any size, anytime. 3 p.m. Fanta, 10 p.m. Sprite, 7:46 a.m. Coke. Yeah, you're built different. Dollar soft drinks, any size? Gotta be Wendy's.
We're tracking Milton here on the Weather Channel, along with storm specialist Carl Parker. I'm meteorologist Chris Warren. Carl, we were talking about the forecast, the official forecast from National Hurricane Center, and also wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit and kind of put this all into perspective. A couple days to go, right? Tonight, tomorrow night, and then it's the day.
Yeah.
Right? What, within reasonable meteorological possibilities, right? Reasonable worst case, reasonable best case. What do you think is, first, the reasonable worst case scenario?
Well, the worst case scenario, certainly in terms of the amount of damage and the potential for loss of life, is for the storm to come in right over or just north of the Tampa metro area. So let's take a look at that scenario. This is a look at the scenario in which that center comes in just north as a major hurricane, a Category 3 or a Category 4. We just haven't seen anything like this. I mean, you have to go back to 1921. That was the last time we had a major landfall in Tampa. And there were only 160,000 people in Tampa. Now there are 3.5 million. So, you'd be talking about 10 to 15 feet of surge when half the population in Tampa, half of that 3.5 million, sits at 10 feet or less. So this just has so much potential to be absolutely catastrophic in the Tampa area. Now, if the storm were to come in, if the center were to be a little to the south, that would mean less impact, not no impact, but less impact in the Tampa metro area, but much greater impact farther south in areas that were just hit so hard by Helene, talking about Anna Maria, Longboat Key, Siesta, Lido, those areas. Farther southward down into Venice as well. Want to show you now, and it looks like we've got a brand new forecast, I believe, that has just come out. Could that be that has just come out? Because that line looks like it could be different here. I think that is the new official forecast, and we'll
the
check
new
on that for you.
update's in. Yeah.
It is in? Okay. So that's the new official forecast right there, which is interesting because the last official forecast was a little to the north right in there. Now, you look at all these ensemble members. So this is when they take the global models and they rerun those models 20, 30, 50 times in some cases to account for possible errors getting into that main operational run. And you get a slightly different scenario when you tweak those models, and that's how we get these ensemble tracks. So if it were to be one of these tracks more to the north of Tampa Bay, again, that's the worst case scenario in Tampa. If it were to be right over Tampa, also terrible, terrible situation. If it were to be a little to the south, that could be a little better for the Tampa area. But again, that would be absolutely terrible for points farther south. That would raise the stakes for places like Sarasota and Venice and Fort Myers Beach and into Sanibel Island as well. There's the latest, the stats from the Hurricane Center for the storm. Still a Category 5 storm, but it has weakened some, which is certainly what the satellite imagery has been bearing out here. 165 mile per hour storm now, moving east at 9 miles per hour, and the pressure up considerably to 914 millibars. And so, we saw again a record pressure with this storm. It was at 897 millibars, making it the 5th most intense hurricane on record in the Atlantic Basin, now back up to 914 millibars and is moving east at 9 miles per hour. We do have a new track to tell you about, a new forecast track from the Hurricane Center. Not a lot of change with this track. And, we've been talking about the ensemble guidance and how there was just a very subtle, slight southward shift today there in the central part of Florida. And so this track does appear to reflect that, with the center line being just a little bit farther south, but still the center being right over the Tampa metro area. And again, that would certainly be very close to, if not maximizing the storm surge potential there in Tampa, and then points just to the south of that, including Anna Maria Island and Longboat Key and Siesta Key and Lido Key, those areas, Sarasota, getting hit very, very hard by surge in that scenario. So, you know, Chris, in terms of the broad strokes here, it looks like we're pretty much on track with the storm. Not a lot has changed. And, you know, that can at least be helpful if you see the model guidance kind of settling in to a solution. You know, the worst thing is when you've got it kind of moving all over the place and it's not really settling down. So, you know, at least it looks like we're settling in some, and we can hope that it stays that way, at least in terms of planning, at least in terms of people getting out of harm's way.
So that's in terms of the direction, a little bit of movement with it's expected with the forecast for the next couple of days. So how strong is it going to be when it gets there? The major hurricane is now. Is there anything that you're seeing in the atmosphere, Carl, that says that perhaps it could be not as strong at landfall? Is there any hope you can have that something could get in there to slow it down, to weaken it? Is there anything that you're seeing at all?
Yeah, so, you know, obviously we know that there's a lot of very warm water in the Gulf of Mexico, so there's no shortage of energy available. Now, this is looking at the moisture in the atmosphere, the green there being the moist areas and the brown being the dry areas. And so as the storm gets closer, the dry air is going to be lurking, and some of that is going to try to get into that circulation. That's something that we could hope for. We can hope that that dry air does make a significant inroads, but you know, I don't know that it's going to make that much difference. You know, the storm has already been so strong. And another thing is that the winds are going to be very strong to the north. And so just as we saw with Helene, that can actually strengthen the circulation as it's starting to feel some of those strong upper winds.
Meet the traveling trio. The thrill seeker, the soul searcher, and ahoy, it's the explorer, each helping to protect their money with Chase. Whoa, a lost card isn't keeping this thrill seeker down. Lost her card? Not the vibe. The soul searcher is finding his identity and helping to protect it. Oh yeah, the explorer. She's looking to dive deeper, all while Chase looks out for her. Because these friends have Chase. Alerts that help check, tools that help protect, one bank that puts you in control. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Marshall's buyers have a very particular set of skills. They can hunt down the latest trends.
Double denim is back. So chic.
And take quality very, very seriously.
Ceramic.
They're highly trained deal-making professionals who travel far and wide to hustle the best of the best for you. We get the deals. You get the good stuff. Marshall's.
Cheese and fruit and crackers. Cheese and fruit and crackers. Cheese and fruit and crackers.
Come and get yourself some Golden Club crackers.
Wow.
We're all creatures of habit. We've always had our bran flakes with plump, juicy raisins, and we probably all... Ooh, frosting. Kellogg's Frosted Bran. More delicious ways to bran.
You won't remember my name. This is the last time you will see me at the top. I want to carry on, but not today. This is the point I give up. But not today. I want to carry on. You will see me at the top. This is the last time you won't remember my name.
Attention parents of premature babies diagnosed with neck or necrotizing enterocolitis. If your baby was premature and fed Similac or Enfamil, financial compensation may be available. NEC is a devastating intestinal disorder that may result in lifelong injuries or even death for premature babies. Lawsuits are now being pursued against the makers of Similac and Enfamil for failing to warn about the risk. Find out if you have a case.
Call 1-800-423-5457 or visit youhavealawyer.com. That's 1-800-423-5457.
What's the #1 item in a crisis? Food. Because when the world goes sideways,
grocery shelves get picked bare, and people worry they'll go hungry. That's why you need 4 Patriots' best-selling 3-month survival food kit. Food designed to last for 25 years, tastes great, and is easy to make. Packed with 688 servings and 24 delicious meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Get your food kit with free shipping and free mini kits at 4patriots.com.
The Weather Channel TV app is keeping you ahead of the storm all hurricane season. Our goal is to keep people safe. Log in and experience local weather, real-time radar, minute-to-minute coverage, and landfall cams bringing you every angle of the storm. Start your free trial and be prepared all season.
The time is running out now to prepare and get out of the way of this extremely dangerous Category 5 hurricane. Lines were long on both sides of the coast today in Florida. People filling up sandbags in Tampa and Cocoa Beach, Florida. And with that, let's go to storm specialist Carl Parker. And Carl, in some cases, the only thing really you can do is leave, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, but other areas, because there's going to be an inland flood threat, almost the entire state has the possibility for seeing floods, so sandbags absolutely needed. Power's likely to go out for who knows how many counties in Florida.
Yeah.
And so having fuel in your vehicle also extremely important.
Yeah, you know, this is going to be such a widespread storm in terms of who it's impacting. You're talking about the storm, you know, obviously having terrible impacts on the coast in terms of storm surge, but then a very strong storm, a major hurricane moving well inland, coming perhaps right up along that I-4 corridor into Orlando. So wind damage, power outages, structural damage well inland as well, in addition to a heavy rain threat near the core on the north side of the core of that storm. So, you know, certainly we're looking at the effects on the coast, but also well inland with this storm. Now, we do have a new advisory from the National Hurricane Center. This is the 11 p.m., 10 p.m. Central Advisory. Category 5 storm, 165 miles per hour, so it's not quite as intense as it was earlier, but what it was earlier was the 5th most intense hurricane by pressure in Atlantic Basin history, with a pressure of 897. That's now up to 914, but number 5 on the all-time list in terms of pressure in the Atlantic Basin. Just an unbelievable storm here just north of the Yucatan in Mexico. And here's the new forecast track and intensities. Very, very subtle shift, just a little to the south, but the center line still right over Tampa. So we're still talking about potentially what could be one of the worst disasters that we have seen. Now, just last couple of weeks ago when we had Helene coming in to the Tampa area, it was well offshore. We saw a storm surge of 5 to 8 feet generally in the Tampa metro area, which was record surge in a lot of cases. In St. Pete, for example, we got up to 6.3 feet. The previous record surge was 4 feet, so it blew away the records, and we saw 28,000 structures damaged as a result of that flooding there in Pinellas County. So you're talking about 6.3 feet of surge. We could get double that or maybe more in the Tampa metro with this storm. That's how serious this is. And it's not, of course, just about Tampa. When it comes to surge, it's going to be about the core and points farther south as well. So if the core were to be right down the center line, it would not just be there, it would be to the south as well into Anna Maria and into Longboat Key and Siesta Key and Lido Key, farther southward into Venice, and yes, down into Fort Myers and Sanibel, all those areas that were hit so hard by Ian in 2022 would also be on track to be looking at a devastating surge of 10 feet and possibly more if the storm were to track a little farther to the south. So this is going to have such a big effect on so many areas along the West Coast. And again, as I mentioned, it's going to work right inland into central Florida and cause significant wind damage in addition to an inland flooding threat. There you see the eye, not quite as well formed in recent images, but just an unbelievable storm in terms of the structure here. Very tiny storm right now. That area of strongest winds is not that large right now, but watch what happens over time. It does end up getting much larger as the storm is coming into the west coast of Florida, and that's a big part of why we've got such a significant surge threat. So, you know, this is what we're talking about right here. And you've probably heard, run from the water, hide from the wind. If you're far enough inland that there's no chance that you're going to be threatened by storm surge, then you can hide from the wind and you can fortify your home and do all the things that people do with the shutters and, you know, cardboard and all of that. But if you're anywhere near the coast, if you're in any of the evacuation zones and you're being told to evacuate, this is one of those cases where, you know, you should not use your previous experience to guide you in this case, because there's no one alive who has been through a major hurricane coming into the Tampa metro area. There you see the storm surge forecast of potentially 10 to 15 feet there. And as I mentioned earlier, half of the population of Tampa sitting at 10 feet or less of elevation. You know, that is absolutely devastating if we see a surge like that. But also here, 6 to 10 feet farther southward into Fort Myers, into Sanibel, and then 4 to 7 down towards Naples and towards Cape Coral. So, you know, this entire section of the west coast of Florida being threatened by surge. And again, the center of the storm and on southward is where the worst of that surge is going to be. So, you know, that's really going to be very important when the storm comes in. If the storm comes in like that, it's going to be from that center and southward where the very worst of the surge is going to be. And then, you know, the same is true if it moves a little farther northward as well. That will raise the stakes for the Tampa metro area. We have this new forecast advisory from the National Hurricane Center, as mentioned. We'll have much more on that coming up in a moment. And Chris, major traffic jams now in Florida.
It's still time to evacuate, but it could be a bit of a slow go here. Interstate 4 going away from Tampa right now. Evacuations ongoing with ongoing continuing coverage after this.
Psoriatic arthritis symptoms can be unpredictable.
One day, your joints hurt.
Next sits on your skin.
I got Cosentix. Feels good to move.
Feel less joint pain, swelling and tenderness, back pain and clearer skin, and help stop further joint damage with Cosentix. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentix. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur. Some are fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur.
I feel better.
Check out these moves.
Just bust a move. Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentix.
Our energy turns driving into a transformative experience. It takes handling and makes it super handling. Born on the racetrack and raised in the third row. It pushes technology to be brighter. And that's the energy of innovation.
Visit your local Acura dealer for attractive offers on a new vehicle.
I have moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Thanks to Skyrizi, I'm on my way with clearer skin. 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to.
Nothing on my skin means everything. Ask your dermatologist about Skyrizi. Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Check out Mahomes' top 3 plays of the day. He scrambles into T-Mobile to get that new iPhone 16 Pro on us. It's a little shimmy, shimmy, shake. What you think, huh?
It's like he's chasing an ice cream truck.
Ice cream! He got his iPhone 16 Pro, the first iPhone built for Apple Intelligence. Cuz holding it up like a baby lion. Homie takes those T-Mobile savings and calls it a day? Respect. Now at T-Mobile.com, get the new iPhone 16 Pro on us. And families can save 20% every month versus the other big guys.
I didn't have to spend my life trying to find my calling. Mine found me at an early age. It was just a matter of how good I could get and how far I would go.
At Ram, our calling is to build trucks. So when you find your calling, nothing can stop you from answering it.
Right now during Ram Power Days, get $4,000 cash allowance on the purchase of most 2025 Ram 1500 trucks. Don't miss Ram Power Days. Hurry in today.
S.C. Johnson.
Category 5 Hurricane Milton growing stronger. Now one of the most intense storms we've seen in the Gulf. The central pressure for this storm fell to a near record low. Milton does pose a very serious threat to Florida. And all day, people have been recognizing that threat, getting ready and even getting out. Lines for gas going on for miles. Others filling up sandbags. Interstate 75 and Interstate 4 have been jammed. Most of Florida now under a state of emergency tonight. This is our special coverage tracking Milton. I'm meteorologist Chris Warren alongside storm specialist Carl Park. Are live tonight until 2 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, 1 a.m. Central. And Carl, Milton still a Category 5 hurricane.
Category 5 storm right now. Landfall. It is going to pose such serious threat to the west coast of Florida, and not just to the coast, but points well inland as well. The latest advisory from the Hurricane Center showing it now at 160, pressure 914 up from 897, which made it the 5th most intense hurricane in Atlantic Basin history, Atlantic Basin records. Now moving east at Orlando area, and then all the way to the Space Coast or maybe a little farther north. It has been a very compact storm. That center of that most dangerous part of the storm, the core of the storm, is what we call the radius of maximum wind. That's only been a few miles across today, so a very tiny eye, and that is now beginning to degrade somewhat. A lot of times storms like this go through what is called an eye wall replacement cycle. And each time that happens, the wind field gets a little bit larger. So between that and the fact that the storm is going to be interacting with some slightly cooler air to the north, those things are going to help to expand that area of strong winds. So you've got a large area of strong winds. You've got a storm that's starting out as a Category 5. And remember what happened with Katrina. Started out as a Category 5, then became a Category 3, and we know what happened after that. So the fact that it went from a 5 to a 3 didn't help at all in terms of the potential for damage. And that is one of the things that has us the most concerned about this storm. You're looking at potential surge here of 10 to 15 feet in Tampa and St. Pete and farther south into Sarasota and also towards Anna Maria and Longboat and Siesta. So, you know, that's a level of surge that no one has seen in living memory. I mean, the last time we had a major hurricane coming into the Tampa area was 1921. So over 100 years ago. And if it does come in just to the north of Tampa, this could be an absolutely devastating storm. It could be one of the worst storms that we have ever seen, if not the worst storm that we've ever seen in terms of damage and possibly even loss of life. That's why it is critical for you to listen to local officials if they are telling you to evacuate from these areas. Farther southward, it's also going to be significant. 6 to 10 feet of storm surge there around Sanibel in Fort Myers Beach. Of course, you're still recovering. So last thing you want to hear, so sorry to be reporting this, 4 to 7 feet farther south, and then also up here getting towards the Big Bend, 5 to 10 feet of surge potentially there. Now, a change in the track of the storm is going to have an impact on who gets what. If the core of the storm were to come in right over Tampa or just a little to the north, that would be the worst case scenario for Tampa. But if the core of the storm comes in a little to the south, that would mitigate that storm surge potential somewhat. But of course, it would raise the stakes for areas farther south. Now, this is the latest forecast track from the Hurricane Center. That's the center line right there, along with the ensemble members of the American model, the GFS model, and the European model. And you see it's pretty much in the middle of those ensemble tracks there, but there's still some potential for it to move a little farther to the north and again pose more of a threat to the Tampa area, or move a little farther to the south and pose less of a threat to the Tampa area. But again, that would increase the threat for places like Sarasota, in Venice, in Fort Myers, and Sanibel Island. So that is what we're facing right now. That's the forecast challenge that we're facing right now. And again, that wind threat moving well inland. We're talking about hurricane force winds all across the middle of the state. And then on top of that, a very serious rainfall threat, especially in the northern part of that eye wall. On the underside of the storm, we're going to see some drier air wrapping into that circulation. But that northern eye wall is where some of the heaviest rain is going to be found. And so if, for example, we were to see the core coming in just a little to the south of Tampa, and so we didn't see the worst surge in Tampa, well, you'd be into that northern eye wall where the very heavy rain is coming down in Tampa. So you could see significant inland flooding in Tampa. So there are multiple hazards depending on exactly how the storm comes in. And of course, that wind threat is going to extend well inland as well, Chris, right into Orlando potentially, and then towards the Space Coast, St. Augustine, Daytona, all those areas in the Northeast coast, because it's not going to have a lot of time, you know, to get across the center of the state, moving at 15 miles per hour. It's still going to be a formidable storm moving towards the East Coast.
Now, hurricane warnings go almost all the way to the East Coast.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So we're looking at a huge portion of Florida impacted by this.
So many people, you know, not just in the Tampa area, but all along that I-4 corridor into Orlando and then towards the East Coast as well. Yeah, this could be massive in terms of wind damage.
All right, so here with our extended coverage, we will continue to update you on some of those threats, the inland flooding threat, the power outages that are possible well inland as well. But of course, it is the storm surge that has so many people packing the highways, packing the interstates, heading north or heading east away from where Hurricane Milton is expected to make landfall. This is Interstate 75 near Tampa. A lot of red, a lot of lights, tail lights going away from the west coast of Florida right now. Also want to take you near the villages, also along Interstate 75, Wildwood, Florida here. This is looking to the south, so the headlights are heading north. Interstate 75, again, heading north away from the Tampa area here. Also do have another look, and you can see traffic is moving, but it barely so. It's just enough to merge in between vehicles here. Moving along here in Ocala, Interstate 75. So this is what we are seeing right now. I do want to bring in our storm tracker, Charles Peak. He has been in Florida. He joins us on the phone. And Charles, what stands out to you? What have you been seeing? What have you been hearing from people ahead of this storm?
You know, Chris, I'm sure if you're sitting out there in that traffic right now, you're not thinking what I'm thinking, but I was greatly encouraged as I was coming down towards Tampa about 5 o'clock this afternoon, picked it up at Ocala, and it was bumper-to-bumper traffic all the way to Tampa, and as you can see, it's still continuing on. And that's so encouraging because, you know, as you and Carl have been so eloquently explaining tonight, the surge is just nobody's lived through what we potentially are going to have here with this storm, and to completely evacuate and get out of the area is the prudent thing to do if you live in an area that the state has ask you to evacuate. Florida's, as you know, well prepared in this, Chris, and they do a great job in the zones that they know that are going to flood. And if they ask you to leave or in a mobile home and ask you to evacuate, by all means, that's the thing to do. I know Jim Cantori and I were talking at dinner, and both of us very concerned with this. It's just the surge is something that they've never seen here. And granted, that's going to depend, like Carl's been talking about, the exact track of where it comes in, but we won't know that probably until the last few hours exactly, and then it's too late for anybody to respond to.
So we know that with the surge, people are told to evacuate. But outside of that, in the areas where people could lose power for days, and perhaps they're not threatened by the surge, but by the wind, perhaps. And maybe, Charles, these are people that are new to Florida. For someone that's been through hurricanes, tropical systems, losing power, what's the message that you would have for someone that's new to this, that's thinking about riding it out in what they would consider a safe location, but was likely to lose power? What would you say to them?
Well, you think about it, even if they're more inland, I mean, look at what we just had, with Helene, and think of Augusta, Georgia, well inland, and people still without power there, 10 days later. And, so they definitely need to be prepared if they're going to ride it out to not just have for a couple of days, but potentially, extended period of time to be without power, and have thought through that process and what they're going to do and how they can best handle it. And, it may be a situation that, like you say, they, in a wide open area, they're not going to have a tree fall on their house or something, but just maybe without power. And as you know, there's, you need to think through your medicine situation. If you're on medication, will you be able to get your medication and water and those different kinds of things as well.
All right, Storm Tracker Charles Peak, appreciate your perspective. We'll be talking with you coming up again a little bit later as we still are monitoring the ongoing evacuations that are happening right now ahead, still a couple of days now. Ahead of landfall. It takes a lot of time to get a few million people out of harm's way. And so already here, a few nights before landfall, seeing roads packed. Here's the timing for Tampa. And it is a Wednesday, late Wednesday afternoon or into the evening, possibly overnight. So the timing still, that's kind of like the window there. And expecting some of the worst of the winds Wednesday night. And you can think of that also as being into the overnight hours as well. Heavy rain's also going to be a concern. This is one depiction of how it may play out with the radar, and this would be the eye right here, and some of the strongest winds on the edges of that. Again, this is one possible scenario. The exact track still remains to be seen as that eventually pushes through by Thursday evening. It'll be off the East Coast, but there's that rain. And if it does go a little bit farther to the south, you can just kind of shift all of this rain a little bit farther to the south as well. So another way to look at this timing, here's Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, now into the evening hours, and you see some of the heavier rainfall rates happening as those winds start to pick up as well. Moving it forward now in time, here's midnight, Wednesday night, so now Thursday morning, and you really see some of the worst of the weather in through here. So getting those gusts up into that 71, 84, 98 mile an hour wind gusts. Again, this is an approximate of how things are going to play out, but you get a general idea that this is going to be hours of very heavy rain and very strong winds potentially here. Another way to look at the winds, you can see this is the afternoon going downhill. This is the evening now, very strong winds. And then the hurricane comes on shore. So I want to bring in storm specialist Carl Parker once again. And Carl, a lot of details still, need to be worked out with exactly where it goes. But What we have seen already is mind-boggling, Carl, the way this has played out.
Yeah, you know, we're looking at a storm that rapidly intensified today, and there has been a trend towards increasing rapid intensification. This storm actually increased by 95 miles per hour. So rapid intensification is 35 miles per hour in the space of 24 hours. This one increasing by 95 miles per hour. And when you look at rapidly intensifying tropical cyclones with an increase of 40 miles per hour or more in the 24 hours before landfall, Chris, we see a clear upward trend in recent years. The numbers of storms, we see a clear upward trend, and that is reflective of what's going on in the oceans. There's more available energy in the oceans. That's the fuel for these storms. There's a greater depth to the warmth as well. And so, you know, as the storms are getting stronger, instead of churning up cooler water from below, they're just churning up more and more warm water, to the point where, as a matter of fact, when we were watching Beryl much earlier this year, most of the time you see a track in the SSTs. You see there's what we call a cold wake behind a storm where it's churned up that cooler water. After Beryl, there was no cold wake because there's, again, a greater depth to that warmth. So that means even more energy available for these storms.
And we're going to talk more about the ingredients, of course, here with our continuing coverage. But that warm water in the Gulf, it is there, and it is continuing to go over that warm water.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's actually going to be working over something called the loop current, which sits in the south central part of the Gulf. It's right in there where warm water comes up and then wraps around and then comes over like that. In that loop current, you've got an even greater depth to that warm water. So again, even though you've got an incredibly strong storm here with very strong wind that's kicking up the waves and it's churning up the water, it's not going to be churning up a lot of cool water from below. It's going to be churning up warmer water from below as it passes over that loop current in particular. So in terms of the available energy in the oceans, not a lot to hold it back. Maybe some dry air gets involved in the circulation at the very last minute, but you know, that's not something that we can really count on to change things.
All right, so we'll take a look at some of the latest changes with the models coming up here.
Got a little serious for a moment. Okay.
What's with the what?
It's high noon, and the winter's clear. 7 out of 10 cats prefer Blue Tastefuls chicken to Heinz chicken. And with Tastefuls' delicious natural ingredients, it's easy to see why. Blue Tastefuls, a taste cats love made with natural ingredients.
Depend keeps you drier than ever, so you can say yes to more than ever.
Yes! Yes. Yes. No.
Depend. The only thing stronger than us is you.
Have you had your Hershey's?
At Domino's, we're all about cheesy, so you know we had to make our new 5-cheese mac and cheese the crave-worthiest, cheesiest pasta possible. Just like all of our mouth-watering oven-baked pastas. But try one for yourself, including our new 5-cheese mac and cheese next time you order at Domino's.
Yeah, it's that good. Want it, need it, cheese it.
You know the most exciting thing about life? It's how you can change it. You can move to new cities, meet new people, take on new challenges. So reimagine yourself. We did. The all-new Nissan Kicks.
Marshall's buyers have a very particular set of skills. They can hunt down the latest trends.
Double denim is back. So chic.
And take quality very, very seriously.
Ceramic.
They're highly trained deal-making professionals who travel far and wide to hustle the best of the best for you. We get the deals. You get the good stuff. Marshalls.
Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. McCaffrey with a tough call.
You can't go wrong.
This is a big call, Christian. Big call, biggest call of your life. Wood or tile finish? Which one you gonna do? This could make or break the whole kitchen. Call a timeout, Christian.
London Sky.
You sure?
He's sure.
And some London Sky.
And a decisive win with the Lowe's app. In-store, online, our Lowe's team has you covered.
Watch the Weather Channel for ongoing coverage of Milton. Get trusted updates only on the Weather Channel and the Weather Channel TV app.
HomeAglow just cleaned my entire house for $19. No, seriously, $19. They showed up right on time and did my dishes, my laundry, they even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using HomeAglow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change.
That's a Harry's, the razor with the first name. For people who want to start their day feeling smooth and soft, thanks to 5 sharp blades and a lubricating strip with aloe for as low as $2 a blade. Harry's, available in stores and online at harrys.com/shave.
Those 26 miles in the rain?
Yeah.
FrameBridge can frame that with custom framing made easy. Whether it's a pick or a Picasso, FrameBridge will frame it with the highest quality materials. Millions of custom frames and counting. Get started today at framebridge.com.
The Weather Channel TV app is keeping you ahead of the storm all hurricane season.
Our goal is to keep people safe.
Log in and experience local weather. Real-time radar, minute-to-minute coverage.
Waves are just crashing on the seashore.
Top stories in our on-demand library. Interactive live chats with experts. And landfall cams bringing you every angle of the storm. No one covers hurricane season like the Weather Channel TV app. Start your free trial and be prepared all season.
Tracking Milton here on the Weather Channel. I'm meteorologist Chris Warren. Now the latest on Hurricane Milton, a 165-mile-per-hour Category 5 hurricane as of the 10 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock Eastern advisory from the National Hurricane Center. It is moving to the east at 9 miles an hour. It is expected to eventually make more of a turn to the east-northeast, and you see that expected to happen by tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, still a Category 5 hurricane, even into the evening hours. And then on approach, still a major hurricane expected to make landfall. And notice that the hurricane will stay as it moves across the state of Florida and still be a hurricane there, even getting a little bit stronger once it reemerges out over the Atlantic. So the potential is also there for some tropical storm force winds outside of the cone from Jacksonville all the way up into the Georgia coast and South Carolina coast. You can see the tropical storm watches, hurricane warnings, and you can imagine these watches may change by tomorrow to warning. So expecting hurricane conditions through a lot of the peninsula, the central part of the peninsula. And this right here, what has the potential for putting Milton into the history books for all the wrong reasons. The storm surge, significant storm surge for highly populated areas here. And if you can imagine 10 to 15 feet of water over normally dry ground, that is the possibility in the Tampa area, Sarasota. So all of this zone right here, I mean, you're looking at extensive, even that 6 to 10, 5 to 10 range, extensive damage with that. Catastrophic damage is a possibility here. And again, another look at the forecast. The timing is going to be Wednesday evening into the overnight hours. And here's the cone plus the wind field. The orange, tropical storm force, getting up to 58 miles an hour, then hurricane force in here. So you can see that right down the center, you have some of the strongest winds, but impactful power outage type winds covering almost the entire peninsula by Wednesday evening. And of course, here with some of the heaviest rain, strongest winds closer to the core, winds possible over 110 miles an hour. So with that, we look to the west coast of Florida, and it's been more than 100 years since the Tampa Bay area was directly impacted by a major hurricane. For a coastal city of 3 million people, a direct hit could be especially devastating. Weather Channel meteorologist Alex Wilson and hurricane expert Dr. Rick Knapp explain why the area is so vulnerable.
Tampa, Florida is very vulnerable to hurricanes. Many counties in the region are surrounded by water on up to 3 sides. The Gulf is relatively shallow. During a storm, the surge is pushed higher and higher. Once the water moves into Tampa Bay, it gets stuck. It has nowhere to go but up and over the land.
The Gulf of Mexico has always been warm enough to power tropical storms and hurricanes, but in recent years, it has been getting even warmer than average, powering even bigger storms. It is staggering to think that it's been more than a century since the last time a major hurricane directly impacted the Tampa Bay area. Ivan and Charlie provided some scares. Ada in 2020 had some impacts, but we have not had a direct major hurricane like the October 1921 storm with all of the dramatically increased population and infrastructure in harm's way. The winds and the storm surge that would affect the Tampa Bay area if you repeat a 1921 storm would be devastating.
If that happened again, let alone a Category 3 or 4, the water would be over a person's head and the damage would be staggering. Timing in an evacuation is very critical. If people do not respond quickly, roads become backed up and leaving becomes difficult. Most of the 3 million residents have never seen a hurricane in this area and may not understand the threat. Officials urge for residents to take threats seriously and move quickly when they say you need to go.
A direct strike from a major hurricane would be so much more devastating than any of these recent storms have been, and really needs to motivate us to get ready for the next big one to come your way.
And we currently do see a lot of motivated people on the roads right now, evacuating, getting away from the danger. Storm specialist Carl Parker is here. That storm surge, Carl, the potential
looking at the density there across the Tampa area and also into Pinellas there in St. Petersburg. Then we go forward 30 years into 1970. You see how much more that has grown, even more so by 2000 and or less. That's why there's so much worry about what will happen in Tampa. We'll have much more on this dangerous storm coming up.
Molly leaving was one thing, but then I thought Mom's weak bones might keep us stuck on the couch. No way.
If you have postmenopausal osteoporosis and are at high risk for fracture, you can do more than just slow bone loss. You can build new bone in just 12 months with Evenity. Evenity is proven to reduce spine fracture risk by 73%.
Hey everybody, Hutchinson, Kansas Real Fan Productions here, speaking outly. I just wanted to mute the live stream for just a few minutes. I just wanted to mute the sharing, the screen sharing for just a few minutes outly, so all of you can hear me okay outly. Hopefully all of you are enjoying enjoying the live stream very, very well. Don't forget, Outlet. I will be doing doing another live stream tomorrow morning, or tomorrow night. I don't know what time, but I hopefully all of you are enjoying the enjoying the stream. Um, hopefully, Outlet. Hopefully you guys do enjoy the stream very, very well. I'm gonna go ahead and get you all back on. I will turn the volume back up um, on the sharing screen, and I will talk to you all at the end of the stream.
Comfortable footwear.
You never want to lose your edge. And the Lexus RX completely understands that.
Olive Garden's never-ending pasta bowl is back. Now with our new garlic herb sauce, which means the never-ending pasta you crave isn't just back, it's better than ever. Never-ending pasta bowl, starting at $13.99 for a limited time.
Asthma doesn't want you to be the cool mom. Triggers can pop up at any moment, and asthma says you can't. But by making better control of your severe asthma possible, Tespire says you can. Tespire is an add-on treatment for people 12 and over that treats your type of severe asthma to help you prevent attacks, breathe better, and relieve your asthma symptoms. Tespire is not a rescue medication. Serious allergic reactions may occur. Get help for swelling of your face, mouth, tongue, trouble breathing. Rash or eye allergy can happen. Don't stop asthma treatments without talking to your doctor. Tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection or your asthma worsens. Avoid live vaccines. Sore throat, joint, back pain may occur. By helping control your asthma, Tespire lets you be you. Ask your asthma specialist for Tespire by name.
Tracking Milton here on the Weather Channel, and a lot of people know about Milton and know that it is too dangerous to stay. Evacuations currently underway right now. Live look here, Interstate 75 in Ocala. Traffic is moving, but the Interstate 75 northbound, absolutely packed. Same story here, Interstate 4, so moving away from the water, going across the peninsula here near Lakeland, Florida. You can see a lot of red, the glow of red here. Wow, so much traffic right now. High volumes at this hour, 11:30 here on the East Coast, as we are tracking Milton here on the Weather Channel. I'm meteorologist Chris Warren, storm specialist Carl Parker. Carl, still a Category 5 hurricane out there.
Still a very dangerous storm. That's not going to change. Even if we do see a reduction in the intensity, it will continue to be an exceptionally dangerous storm because of where it is coming in and because it is going to grow in size. Right now, 165 mile per hour winds. Pressure is up to 914. At one point, it was below 900, 897, making it the 5th most intense hurricane on record in the Atlantic Basin by central pressure. Pretty amazing. And this is the latest forecast track and intensities from the Hurricane Center. Very subtle shift to the south, kind of following the guidance today. And so the center line very much right into the Tampa area. You see the storm remaining an incredibly powerful storm as it is approaching and then moving into the coast. That would likely be later on Wednesday and then coming across the state into the overnight on Thursday. And it's going to be moving along. It's going to be moving at probably 15 miles per hour. So that's going to mean significant impacts well inland, well into the I-4 corridor, into Orlando potentially. Could be talking about widespread wind damage with the storm in addition to a very heavy rain threat. There's the satellite picture. You notice the eye is not quite as well formed as it was in the early part of the loop. This is actually a really compact storm. It's very small. The radius of maximum winds, that's the core, the most intense part of the storm, only about a few miles wide earlier today, which is a fraction of what we see with the average hurricane, even smaller than Charlie was. And you can see that reflected in the winds here. So there's the core, that very small core just to the north of the Yucatan. But watch what happens to this area of strong winds as we go through time. Between eye wall replacement cycles and also interaction with the front to the north, that area of strong winds is going to expand greatly, and it's going to be coming into a section of coastline that is extremely surge vulnerable. And so this is the current forecast from the National Hurricane Center. Doesn't mean that we're going to get these values in all of these places. It just means that this is the potential within these areas. And when you're talking about 10 to 15 feet of surge in Tampa Bay, half of the population is at 10 feet or below in Tampa Bay. So that's why so many people have been evacuating there from Tampa. But it's also very serious to the south, down into Sarasota and Siesta and Lido Key, Anna Maria and Longboat, areas that were just hit so hard by Helene. We could be talking about much more surge than what we just saw. And then farther southward into Fort Myers, into Sanibel, and down into Naples and Cape Coral as well. Chris, this is going to be a devastating storm, again, along the coast, but also inland, as well as that wind and that rain threat is going to extend well into the central part of the state.
Yeah, and let's talk about that right now and show you just the extent of the threat with Milton as we see it right now. So here it is right there, and on its trek toward the peninsula of Florida, it will continue to pick up a lot of moisture and drop a lot of rain. So with that inland flood threat, avoid driving into water if you don't know what the depth is. Of course, you test drinking water, something else to think about. And do not use fresh food that has been in floodwaters, and stay away from down power lines. All danger. So again, another look at that flood threat here. Flood watches already posted from Monroe County all the way up to Georgia, and including parts of Georgia. The rainfall we've seen in the past week kind of sets the stage there, makes things wet so it doesn't take as much more rain for it to start to run off, right? So it's like a sponge that's already wet. You pour some water onto it, it's just going to run off. It's not going to absorb anymore. So that's why past rain matters. Here's the storm. As it gets larger, a bigger area of rain also a possibility. And that northern part of it is where we should see some of the heftier rainfall totals and that increased flood threat as well. Stay with us. The latest coming up after this.
You won't remember my name. This is the last time you will see me at the top. I want to carry on, but not today. This is the point I give up. But not today. I want to carry on. You will see me at the top. This is the last time you won't remember my name.
Dupixent can help people with asthma breathe better in as little as 2 weeks. So this is better, even this. Dupixent is an add-on treatment for specific types of moderate to severe asthma that's not for sudden breathing problems. Dupixent can cause allergic reactions that can be severe. Tell your doctor right away if you have rash, chest pain, worsening shortness of breath, tingling, or numbness in your limbs. Tell your doctor about new or worsening joint aches and pain or a parasitic infection. Don't change or stop asthma medicines, including steroids, without talking to your doctor. Ask your specialist about Dupixent.
Pop-Tart. Crazy!
SC Johnson.
Walmart Plus. It's Walmart plus Burger King. Mm-hmm. You get 25% off your order every day, which means you can have it your way. His way, not recommended. Walmart Plus. It's Walmart Plus. Domino's new 5-cheese mac and cheese is creamy, cheesy, oven-baked to bubbly perfection. But it's also tasty with an upgrade, like crispy bacon, spicy jalapeno, or even both. Introducing new 5-cheese mac and cheese. Try it today at Domino's.
Patients who have sensitive teeth but also want whiter teeth, they have to make a choice, one versus the other. New Sensodyne Clinical White that provides 2 shades whiter teeth as well as providing 24/7 sensitivity protection. Patients are going to love to see Sensodyne on the shelf.
Olive Garden's never-ending pasta bowl is back. Now with our new garlic herb sauce, which means the never-ending pasta you crave isn't just back, it's better than ever. Never-ending pasta bowl, starting at $13.99 for a limited time.
Homes.com is a new, elevated home shopping experience. Beautiful design, tremendously rich content, and my favorite touch, it's the only site that always connects you to the listing agent. Feels like a work of art.
Lovely. What about the app?
Uh-oh! Look what I did. It's ringing. Hello? Hello? Hello?
They can't hear you.
Hello?
Because you glued a frame over the microphone.
I think I aim over the microphone.
Ding dong!
Homes.com. We've done your homework.
Tracking Milton on the Weather Channel, and Hurricane Milton prompting alerts for parts of southwest Florida, including Naples, where tropical moisture did help lead to some heavy rain earlier today. Still people out walking along, which was a pretty relatively quiet Gulf of Mexico. That is going to change, and that is going to change in a big way. There is a Category 5 hurricane out there, over the southern portion of the Gulf of Mexico, just north of the Yucatan Peninsula. It is moving east at 9 miles an hour, expected to make more of a turn to the east northeast. It makes its way closer and closer to Florida, but right now, here is that eye. This is the Yucatan, and that land not doing anything. It appears to help weaken this thing, as it will continue to stay a major hurricane upon landfall. That is the forecast, and staying a hurricane as it moves across the state of Florida, the peninsula there, from somewhere over here to over here. Hurricane warnings posted almost all the way to the East Coast, but there are hurricane watches posted here. In fact, tropical storm watches posted all the way up to include parts of Georgia and South Carolina coastline. Storm surge also for both coasts, with the storm surge warning that the surge itself has the potential, of course, to be life-threatening and absolutely catastrophic in its damage for some of the heavily populated areas in the Sarasota area. So the counties around Tampa Bay threatened with 10 to even up to 15 feet of water above normally dry ground. That is the possibility with this. Another look at a major hurricane on it to the west coast of Florida. Exactly where it goes still remains to be seen. Likely we're going to have evidence in exactly where it goes. And one of the big concerns, of course, and why it's so important is the storm surge. Some parts of Florida along the Gulf Coast, again, that 10 to 15 and earlier 10 to 15 feet. And earlier officials from Hillsborough County, home to Tampa, had this warning about the water could get.
As we saw during hurricane, threat to our region is high. It is very real. It is very dangerous. We ordered evacuations for zones by leaving zone A and B today. If you delay until the source, emergency responders may not be able to reach you until the threat passes. You may be on your own.
a naval threat here, Carl, to a vulnerable.
The only way you could survive that is if you were in a multi-story building, you know, a 4 or 5 or something like that. I'd be talking easily scary would that be to be, you know, have.
Hey, everybody, Otley. Hutchinson, Kansas, Rotan Productions here again. Sorry for the number issue that we're having here with the Weather Channel on my computer at that moment. I'm gonna try to get it back online. I'm gonna try to get it back online if I can, Otley. So just be patient. Just be patient. For here in a few minutes, Ollie. I will get the light stream back up as quick as possible, Ollie. So stand by for now. All right, guys. No luck of getting the live stream back up on the Weather Channel here at the moment. I thinking what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna go ahead and end the live stream for tonight. But don't worry, I'll be back. I'll be bringing you all another live stream. Third thing tomorrow. I don't know what time, but it will be tomorrow. So I'll bring you all another live stream of tracking Hurricane Milton tomorrow from the Weather Channel. So take care, everybody. Have a good night. Stay awesome. They did Hutchinson, Kansas, Real